My name is Abby, and today I will be speaking to you about the importance of literacy and literature for Aboriginal students. We will first address the poor Aboriginal rates of literacy and why it's important to close the gap, followed by the importance of integrating Aboriginal literature into primary school education. Finally, I will discuss a piece of Aboriginal literature that helps bring insight into the Aboriginal culture. So, before I start, you need to know what literacy is. Literacy is the ability to read and write. This is important for all students as it is the basic skill to be able to live a successful life. It's especially important for Aboriginal students as testing has shown that Aboriginal students' literacy skills have been decreasing over the years of schooling. These are so low because of their parents often didn't finish their schooling, which therefore leaves them with poor literacy practices at home. Another reason might be that they do not have a high attendance rate. This can be for many reasons, such as trauma, lack of money, and cultural choice. It is important that we pay special attention to Aboriginal students, as extra help and assistance in literacy will allow Australia to close the gap between the outcomes of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal students in the future. So, then what is literature? According to the dictionary, literature is written works, especially those considered of superior or lasting artistic merit. But my understanding of literature is a story in any form that helps enhance your knowledge, imagination, and promotes different perspectives. Children's literature is important as it builds positive attitudes in children at an early age, such as increased self-esteem, tolerance of others, and curiosity of others. Literature allows children to use their imagination and helps children to ask questions and, more importantly, seek answers. It allows them to feel comfortable and can simply just be an escape from the real world for a while. This is important for any student, especially important for Aboriginal students, as Aboriginal students are not as widely represented, and it can therefore make it harder for them to feel connected and part of the classroom. Literature that represents Aboriginal students allows them to see themselves in the character and feel a sense of pride in their culture. It also helps with teaching non-Aboriginal students about the Aboriginal culture. An example of a book that provides insight into the life of Aboriginals is You and Me, Marawee. This story shows us life as it would have been 200 years ago, but does this through the eyes of a young girl camping on a river in the present day. This story not only gives us insight into Aboriginal life 200 years ago, but also allows us to compare life today with life 200 years ago. The author Kerry Hashmi currently lives with her family near the Murrumbidgee River. This river was the inspiration for You and Me, Marawee. Kerry loves to travel and learn about other cultures, and worked as a teacher for many years. She was assisted by the Ngiri speaker Stephanie Gulen and the Aboriginal community of the Murray River. The illustrator Felicity Marshall also worked as a teacher for many years. Felicity is now practicing fine arts, but grew up on the outskirts of Perth, which helped her find her love of the Australian bush and wildlife. Before starting the artwork for this book, Felicity explored many New South Wales and Victoria rivers and undertook extensive research. She was assisted by the former Aboriginal Arts Director, Alan West, and gained permission from the Yorta Yorta people to include their traditional possum cloaks on pages 24 and 25. This story allows students to learn about how simply listening and sharing can provide so much knowledge of different cultures, to themselves and to others. It opens up the avenue for children to ask questions and learn more about the Aboriginal traditions. The word Marawee means elder sister in the language of the Nunjari people of the Murray River. This is important as it shows that the author has done the research and made sure that the book is factually correct, instead of just making it up. It shows that she wanted to properly represent the Aboriginal culture and provide the reader with an insight into the way the Aboriginals lived many years ago. The main characters in this book are the young girl, which we do not know the name of, and of course, Marawee. Both the main characters are female, which is highly important as this book was written in a time when females weren't commonly main characters, especially Aboriginal females. In this book, each of the main characters represent a different time and culture. The young girl represents white people in the present day, and Marawee represents Aboriginal people 200 years ago. Both are walking the same earth, but each life is very different. For example, when having dinner, each character has a different way of preparing and catching their food. The young girl's father has simply bought sausages and onions on the trip with them, while Marawee's family have picked and caught and collected their roots, eggs and fish to have. The settings in these books are those around the riverbank and capture the beauty of the Australian outback, both today and 200 years ago. All the illustrations in these books were created by water paints, gouache and coloured pencil, which allows you to see the many details of the Aboriginal cultures and the beautiful settings in which they used to live. The main plot of this story is Marawee guiding the young girl around the riverbank, showing her the ways she entertained herself when she lived. Although there are no conflicts in this story, the story allows the students to compare the two lives through both the plot and the illustration. Literacy is an important aspect of any student's learning, but it's important that we make sure that Aboriginal students don't get left behind. We must help close the gap by integrating more Aboriginal literature like You and Me, Marawee. This story is a beautifully written piece of literature, which allows students to see an accurate life of an Aboriginal child many years ago. It allows them to understand the difference in cultures and values, and provides many different situations in which each character takes their own path and helps teach students the importance of listening and sharing experiences with others to allow for a more accepting world.